All right, what has occurred, fellow human beings? Holy cow, what a thing to say. What's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. I know that my head is partially cut off. That's how this video is going to be, if it is. Here's some boots, okay? InTheImageClothingCompany. Today is the 10th of July, 2026. This is a video under our main side, one of the 4 sides to us, as InTheImageClothingCompany goes, where our slogan is allowing the body to work. We are a clothing company, but really only to allow the body to work. It's for the physical functioning of the human being, okay? The literal word of clothing, anything physically placed on our physical bodies. Our physical bodies are placed on this physical rock and space we call Earth. Okay, glasses, hats, pants, shoes, socks, tops, undergarments, jewelry, anything at all, a bag on your shoulder, clothing your body. Well, there's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no possible opinion to it. It's measurable mathematics, a vertical pull to gravity and a horizontal surface to the planet Earth. There's only one way these things happen. This is a 90-degree perpendicular right angle, and there's a neutral position to the entire body. So the body's center line from left and right with even musculature opposing the center line, contracting into it where it connects. Well, there's a center line is the point. Okay, the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, our jaw, stabilizing the entire body with musculature from the lower jawbone up to the crown of the head, down to the upper ribs, and out to the edges of our shoulders, going through the collars of our tops that need to stay centered and snug. These are the reasons why we're a clothing company, if you can see why we're a clothing company under In the Image Clothing Company. Okay, the literal word of clothing, the way that God clothes the fields with grass, our bodies are designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. Here's your clothing company. Just because clothing has to, at very least, stay centered when there's a center line to the body, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, which is universally outside of all of us, even though there's a universal human design. Anyway, fit correct, things like joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts, okay, and be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. Clothing needs to do these very baseline 3 things at least to not alter our bodies. And so, well, the thing is, this video has a title, okay, on the 10th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, and the title is, Don't Restrict the Toes Motion with Shoelaces. Shout out to the airplane noise. Okay, this is the thing, our bodies can get into chronic patterning. Our bodies can have ears that can receive sound waves from the turbines and the motors inside the airplanes, these man-made machines. We live in this modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth, and there's only one way the body works, meshing with universal laws, physics, gravity, things like this, in this universal human design. But we've got clothing imbalances that are pretty well universal and shipped across the entire planet Earth in modern 2026. Today is the 10th of July, 2026. But going forth as well, you know, things can get us into chronic patterning. The literal word of clothing our bodies with anything, we can have a lot of imbalances. Okay, oversized clothing, when we don't have these joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts, with the body just being a machine, a mechanical machine of hinges, levers, and rotations, it's just measurable mathematical degrees of motion, determined by the shape and length of our own individual bones, but there is a universal human design, and so we're all the same. Unless you're very specifically, very uniquely different, and we address those things if and where needed, but there's still this universal design that we're based around, even if we're different individually. The point is, oversized clothing as one of the things, but ropes, like this video, about shoelaces, or drawstrings, anything tied on or around the body in any way you could twist the entire body with one side over the other in a knot, you're twisting the entire body. When the body has its own rotations, from the neutral, there's always a neutral position to the entire body, but we can twist the body with ropes, okay? Pockets, zippers, buttons, rotating seams with robots stitching our clothing in modern day, things that didn't happen in the past. Collar seams, imbalanced collars when we have even circumference around our neck, even opposing musculature, right? So anything like this, right? Anything at all in clothing discrepant, different, left to right, front or back, that's damaging the body, it'll damage the body, and big time. Okay, chronic patterning, so scar tissue will build up in the body, bone spurs will build up in the body. So we think we have to get with. Yikes! You'd think it's my first time ever making a video like this as the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company. It's not. This is well over the 600th video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company alone as of today's date, the 10th of July, 2026. Don't restrict the toes motion with shoelaces. The point is, anything at all placed on the body will damage the body. You're trying to work around the only thing physically placed on you. If it's not working the only way your physical body works. And this is day after day after day, year after year after year, almost an entire lifetime maybe of imbalances getting created in the body. So that's how we allow the body to work here under In The Image Clothing Company's main site. And we discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth. And we give a lot of free modifications in these imbalances that come in modern clothing design, or even just modifying the ways we approach our lives, if you will, with this modern man-made world not meshing so well with our God-made body. It just grows by itself. God designed the body to work, but on the planet Earth. Okay. So, here's the thing. Shoelaces can really restrict the toes motion. One of the big things we discuss under In The Image Clothing Company, and hear me correct with this, we do not own a weave of a rope. You can't do that as a human being. Okay. But we title it In The Image Clothing Company's Shoelace Technique. We make it very clear, very public, very known, doing so much and always under the gift, as I call it, of video under, well, all four sides of In The Image Clothing Company. There's only one way the top of the feet are shaped. So all the bones in the body connect directly through ligaments. And the bones are very specifically shaped and lengthed, okay? They just have to connect the only way they do, all right? And we're weaving ropes across the top of our feet. And so this is a visual of In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique, okay? But found wherever you find our 5-word company name, and you'll see it throughout this video here. In The Image Clothing Company, no spaces between the 5 words. This is a permanent thing here. Meaning there's only one way you can weave a rope across the top of all the bones, ligaments, muscles, and tendons in the feet that grip arches inward, opposing the center line of the human being that meshes with Earth's vertical gravity-centered pull. To not alter the body. Because the feet, they grip arches inward. And that's how they support the entire body at our foundation. Okay, the lowest point on our bodies on Earth's vertical gravity pull. So there's only one way you can do this, though. I mean, you just picture a rope. We call them shoelaces, but they're just ropes. There's no rope across the top of your foot until you weave it there through holes we call eyelets in something we call a shoe. It's just man-made. I mean, God designed the body to work. It just works. In all of our own individual situations, to the degree that it does, that's why we have this body. It's a mechanical machine to take us across the planet Earth. It's fueled by food and lubricated by water. There's only one way it functions. And so, in the feet, we've got all this going on, okay? Dorsiflexion, lifting the toes. Plantar flexion, pointing the toes. Internal rotation, rotating the leg inward, or external rotation, rotating the leg outward. Pronation, the foot arch collapsing inward on the inside, or supination, the foot arch rising up onto the outside, okay? And all that, at least, you know, as some of the things we can discuss the feet doing, is happening all the time. And there's 27? I'm pretty sure 27, around there at least, bones in the feet. They're all the shape and length that they are. They're extremely uniquely shaped. And not only that, we have different length 5 toes. within the universal human design. So we roll evenly off the ends of our 5 different length toes, and everything's just in line because that's how the bones are shaped. That's how God designed the body to work. That's the only way the human feet could ever possibly support the rest of the entire human body on Earth's vertical gravity pull. But yeah, the toes, they come up and in to the center line of the body like an arrow, and we just roll off the ends of our different length 5 toes to evenly share the weight, because there's 5 of them. Just like how we have different length 4 fingers that wrap evenly around a different length opposable thumb that plays an entirely different function. There's only one way the human body could ever possibly work. I don't care who's trying to get you to do what, to try to train your body to do something that will always be physically impossible to do unless you change the shape and or length of your own bones. Okay, but this is what I mean. This is where In the Image Clothing Company comes in, because we don't know what we don't know as human beings in any aspect of life ever until we know it. Okay, we're just here to learn and grow, man. I mean it. You know, like I didn't know any of this, for example. Like, I didn't know you had to tie your shoes a certain way and lace your shoes a certain way. You know, I mean, there's no say. There's no possible say over it. There's only one way the bones are shaped in the feet. Okay. So now that I've got that out of the way, and I speak as bold as I speak on stuff like that because it's not my choice. I didn't design my body or your body. There's a universal human design, and it grows by itself. So no matter what you care to try to want to care about, you have to lace shoes the only way the top of your feet are shaped. Lacing shoes is just weaving a rope across the top of your feet. Every step we take, you know, we put the foot down and point the toes, plantar flex the foot, but then we lift the foot up and lift the toes, which is dorsiflexion of the foot, and then we take a step and then put it down, plantar flex, lift it up, dorsiflex. My point is, every time we walk, half of the foot's function is lifting the foot off the ground, and that is entirely determined by the top of the shoe, which is what the weave of the rope is doing, is determining that shape that we're lifting with the top of our foot. That's very uniquely shaped because we've got different length 5 toes and like 27, 26, 27 bones in the feet. They only do what they do. It's no possible opinion. It's not about a company. It's not about a fad. It's not about fashion. It's not if you care about it or not. It's not because we have a labeling behind it that we title In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique. We just title it that so you can find it under what we show as In the Image Clothing Company when we deeply, deeply, deeply discuss the mathematical truth to the human being's only functioning. It can only do what it does. And so my point is, I make it so blunt, bold, raw, and real as we do In the Image Clothing Company style, if you will. You know, but I make it so clear that we don't have an opinion here on things that are just what they are. It's just physics, bro. I mean, it's just motion. It's just a foot. It's just a rope. It's just what it is. So my point is, this video is titled, the 10th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. Don't restrict the toes motion with shoelaces. I'm going to show something specific in this video because, you know, we show how to do In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, and you can call it whatever you want. But just how to weave a rope across the top of the feet, the only way the top of the feet are shaped, mechanically, the bone structure. But sometimes we've got very specific things like this little tab here. So this is what I'm showing specifically in this video. And what I'm going to do is show you these 2 shoes side by side, laced properly, tied properly, In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, the only way the top of the feet are shaped. And then I'm going to change this left shoe to incorporating this little tab that's in this design of this hiking boot that I just bought used today at the Deseret Industries thrift store. Shout out to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay. But yeah, if you put this rope, we call a shoelace, through this little thing here, it's a little loop, you could call it an eyelet, it's just going to change big time what it does to the toes motion. And this is actually fairly common. This little tab here is what this video is specifically about. I'm going to bring the shoe closer, these boots, you know, to the camera and show this clearly. But let me explain this because A lot of different shoe brands, a lot of different shoe designs, they'll have something like this, where at the very bottom of the lacing, where the weave of the rope goes across the top of the foot, you know, as close as it comes down to the toes, a lot of times there's something in the center here that's holding that rope in place. So let me show you this. All right, look at this close. Look how I'm not using this little loop down here by the toes, okay, with the shoelaces. Okay, see how this is not incorporated? I don't put the ropes through this, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you can say that, but no, just meaning, yeah, if you don't do that, then your toes can have that natural motion. Let me show you something. Let me show you how these boots will come laced, because that's why that little eyelet's there, is to be able to be used. Okay, and let me show you what it'll do to your toes' natural motion. Let me talk about the toes. The toes bend backward, okay? When we step down, the toes bend back like this and then push off the ground. And so, you know, part of In The Image Clothing Company shoelace technique, the specificity of it, is the very bottom part here, the lace that goes across the toes, like the base of the toes where they meet into the forefoot. Okay, like how our fingers come down and meet into the hand. That little horizontal part of the rope, what I'm showing in this video, to not put through that little tab that's sometimes in a shoe design, you know, that in the Image Clothing Company shoelace technique is underneath to push down on the toes right where they meet into the forefoot, because the toes flex backward. And we just want the top of the shoe or boot, you know, whatever it is, but call it a shoe, even if it's a boot, and you know, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Oh my goodness. You just want that to press against the top of your foot, right where those toes meet the foot, so that there's that nice, like, just solid pressure, and the foot can just easily lift up the shoe. All right, so look, before I finish lacing this back up, let me show you. I put it through this little tab here, okay? See the right shoe? In the Image Clothing Company shoelace technique, done properly. The left shoe, I'm going to lace it back up improperly to show you what it will do like this. The improper part is that I put the lace through this little loop here, right on top of the toes, at the base of the toes where they meet into the forefoot, and that will restrict the foot's motion if you use it. And I'll show you what I mean. I'll show a visual of just, you know, the motion that's allowed to be there in my feet. I mean, the point is, this is what we do under In The Image Clothing Company. The point is truly that God designed the body to work. Unless or until altered, our bodies just work. And so, watch this. All right. Cinch my shoe up now is what I will do. Okay. It's a boot. You can call it a shoe. You can call it a shoe if you really want, but it's a boot. You can call it a car, but it's a truck, right? Hypothetically. Here's the thing. You put this shoe back on your foot. It's a boot. It's so funny. It's so funny to me. I think it's funny. I do think that's funny, actually. I really do. The thing is, yeah, I mean, look, now if I try to move, well, it's harder. See how I have so much more motion in my right foot? But as I try to use my left foot, this is pulling, and you can see it. The lace is pulling, like, down toward the toes more. And the thing is, you know, right where the toes come in and meet the forefoot, we just want this to have that nice pressure against that area for the toes to flex up and back. Okay? And here it doesn't do that. It just pulls forward, and it's like pulling the whole boot forward. Like the rear part of the upper of the boot is being pressed against the rear of my lower leg here. This tendon back here from the calf muscle down to the heel of the foot, the Achilles tendon. Right, tendons connect muscles to bones. So muscles only pull, one side pulls to close a hinge, but opposing muscles pull to extend a hinge. if you will, like the elbow. The ankle, muscles on the rear of the lower leg pull to flex or point, plantar flex, the foot, and then muscles on the top of the foot up through the front of the lower leg pull to lift or dorsiflex the foot, right? And so what's happening is this little eyelet thing here, this little loop right above the toes, at the base of the toes, where they meet into the forefoot at the very bottom of the lacing. If you use that, this little tab, this little eyelet, this little loop is the point of this video here on the 10th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, titled, Don't Restrict the Toes Motion with Shoelaces. Because, you know, anything you do to the lacing technique at all, or even tying of the shoes, can restrict how the toes work. It'll just travel through the bones of the feet out to the toes. But this is directly at where the toes meet into the forefoot. This, out of anything within actual lacing of shoes and or boots, wow, eccentric. That's going to be the thing, you know, as far as the actual rope, the actual shoelace, that little area right there is going to be the most effect, like physically directly to the toes of the feet. And the toes really grip, man. I'm going to lace this back properly as I'm speaking here. Okay. And I'll just wait out the airplane noise too, if needed. If and where needed. You hear that often under In the Image Clothing Company. We address things if and where needed. Funny, huh? I think it's funny. You can think it's just not at all, not even the slightest bit funny. And I'll sit here and laugh if I choose to. If it's authentic to me to laugh in the moment, I might. If not, maybe I won't. Probably won't. I haven't. Not yet. Not about this. Anyway. Okay, here's the thing. We tie shoes evenly, okay? And I'm going to tie both shoes so I can show you what that is just while we're doing this. But you notice I did not weave that rope, we call a shoelace, through this little loop of a piece of polyester looking fabric in this case, or this used boot design. Or is it a shoe? It's a boot. It's a boot that's a shoe. You can call the shoe a boot, but it's a high top shoe. Yeah, so I didn't put the rope, we call a shoelace, through the little loop, okay? Or through the little eyelet, if you will, right above the base of the toes where they meet into the forefoot. When we tie shoes evenly over toward the center line of the body, and then you tuck it underneath, okay? On both feet, over toward the center line of the body, well, the first time, and then you'll go over toward the outside for the second part of the knot, just opposing, right? First one, you go over toward the inside, then you stack it over toward the outside. Left foot here, brother. In the Image Clothing Company shoelace technique. Over toward the inside, tuck it underneath. Second time, you just go the opposite way, over toward the outside. It's called a square knot. Okay, just opposing as you stack. All right, so there you go. Keep your shoelaces evenly tight. Keep your shoelaces, oh, well, yeah. Anyway, stopping right at the ankle flexion. Okay, always stop lacing at ankle flexion, the angle of the ankle. Not too high, not too low, right? A lot of things we discuss in shoelacing under In the Image Clothing Company. It's one of the biggest things that founded In the Image Clothing Company through me, Evan Strong. But anyway, yeah, now there's just all that natural motion in the toes because this rope isn't stuck, like changing the boot. Whatever exactly it'll do to the boot or shoe, it's just that it's pinned there. Well, yeah, that is what it will do. What I was saying earlier, you know, kind of pull the whole boot up or forward. And a lot of what's lacking in people's feet function is dorsiflexion, the ability to lift the feet up. There's a lot of reasons as to why shoelacing, pant cuffs on the top of the feet, but things like this, all right? The 10th of July, 2026, don't restrict the toes motion with shoelaces. So you can cut that little loop off, or you can just not use it. Whatever you choose to do, just don't restrict the toes motion with shoelaces, all right? In the Image Clothing Company, the 10th of July, 2026. My name is Evan Strong. I know I've said it a few times. Sometimes it's important to say, though, seriously, for the sake of the documentation. The founder of In the Image Clothing Company. We'll be doing this forever, okay? Just meaning this is permanent information, things like this. The things we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company, there's only one way the feet work. You're just weaving a rope across the top of the feet, man. So check us out, okay? 3 sides to us that is not this one, because there's 4 sides too. In the Image Clothing Company. In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. In the Image Clothing Company Music. And In the Image Clothing Company Podcast with discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We're on episode 209 as of today's date, the 10th of July, 2026, of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. We have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. But really, we just have deep insights on life be discussed. We're all just human beings. The same thing within this universal human design, placed on the same rock in space we call Earth. That's about it. Universal things, though, like you need to universally lace your shoes with these type of weaves. In the Image Clothing Company shoelace technique, I mean, it's not ever going to change. It doesn't matter what you're using. You're weaving a rope. No matter what your rope is made out of. I mean, really, ideally 100% natural materials. Ideally round ropes and shoelaces. These are not natural boots. These are just used boots I bought, though. And times and places, right? It's about the intentionality, and sometimes, you know, sometimes there's exceptions for certain things in a proper way, for the proper reasons. But zero drop, just meaning flat on the bottom, that's the term in any brand of shoe. That is the only way the bottom of the feet work. The bottom of the feet's neutral from lifting up, dorsiflexion, or pointing down. Plantar flexion is just the horizontal surface of our planet Earth. Like we were saying earlier, that's that perpendicular angle with the vertical pull to gravity. These boots don't look it, but they're actually flat on the bottom. I mean, they're kind of curved up at the toes slightly, but I was shocked. I wouldn't have bought these. But they're flat on the bottom. They don't quite look like it to me on the outside. I mean, they're, you know, as far as like the height from front to back, it's the same on the bottom. They're good shoes. A lot of why I got them really truly was to make this documentation on the 10th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here about what we made this about. You know, don't restrict the toes motion with shoelaces. But, you know, there's actually a lot of good things about these boots too. So, thank you. Okay, there you go. And there you go. So, stick around and find out. Utah, the state of Utah, the United States of America, In the Image Clothing Company, this is where we're based, specifically down in St. George, Utah. A lot of S's there, so maybe just 2. But yeah. Goodbye. Shout out to the North Face. That's what these boots are. Just credit where it's due. Vibrant soles. What else? What else? Any more trademarks? Any more things that we want to not get a copyright claim for? Thank you. Goodbye. In the Image Clothing Company.